Good evening and welcome to Comic Book School Live. I am Buddy Scalera. That is Mike Fasolo. No, that is not true at all. We are filling in for I did the joke last week and I pulled it off. This week I feel like I didn't quite nail it, but
All
it
right.
is what it is. I am your host, Michael Dolce, joined by a guest co-host,
Hello,
Miss
guys.
Bevin. How are you
How's
doing?
it going?
Oh, it's going. It's definitely going. I can tell you that much. We have a great show tonight. We're filling in for what else? How else do I describe Buddy Scalera and Comic Book School? But the place for all your knowledge that you want on how to do comic books, get into the industry, and get into the biz, as they like to call it. Get into the biz. That's what this is all about. Bevin, you're going to take over. I'm exhausted.
Wow.
I'm just gonna lay back and hang back. No, I promised you I would steer the ship today. So how are you today?
I'm good. I'm getting ready for Turkey Day, which just means that on Thursday I get to show up to a friend's house because I'm having a Friendsgiving, and we ordered food from a place, and no cooking necessary. It's
I
great.
love it.
I recommend it.
Yeah, we are hosting for the first time, so it's actually we're not cooking though. My mom's still cooking. She's just bringing the food over.
Oh,
So
that's nice of her.
can't do both, but we'll take it. We'll take it for sure. All right, tonight's show, I thought having you on, I'll give a little background as to well, actually, you give the audience a little background as to who you are and what you do, because they've already seen me a bunch of times.
Have they really?
Yeah, I was here last week.
So you've only been here once then?
I've been on the show a few times.
Okay, you've been on the show.
I know the network. I know the network of people.
Okay, you know the network of people. Okay, great. Well, this is my first time. What up, everyone? My name is Bevin. I am a media host, podcast host, and on-camera interviewer at Comic-Con. So I've talked to plenty of comic book writers, including Michael Dolce over here. We've done a couple of podcasts together as well. And recently, he has been on my newest show on Tubi, which is called Beverages with Bevin. It's the show that where we toast and boast to our guest and their drink of choice. It is around the Comic-Con fandom where we talk about to all walks of life. We have over 50 guests, over 50 in our first season on Tubi for free.
Look at that handsome devil there.
Look at that. That was all by accident. It was just because the lighting was great and my hair was great. And that is the only
No, and I was an awesome guest. I mean,
you were.
We can say it. We can say it was exciting.
My favorite question that I prompted you, and you knew because I trained you so well, was we were drinking Brooklyn Lager from the Brooklyn Brewery, and
Yes.
I asked you if a geek or a nerd would be a Guinness. And you answered, "Hey guys, hey Aaron, hey, what up? Oh, Aaron, I got your book. I wanted to tag you, but I couldn't find you on Instagram. It's beautiful. I got a Batman book, guys, a Batman animated book, and it's lovely. And I'm going to show it in a second. It's all the way over there. I'm very excited. It's so wonderful.
You got to get it. Yeah, you missed out. It was tough.
It's all right. But anyways, yes. Do you remember your answer and why?
No, go ahead.
So I asked you if a what was it? It was the phrasing of it would be would a Guinness be a geek or a nerd?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yes. And I think I said nerd.
Yes, you're correct. And why is that, Michael Dolce?
Because I feel like to be a geek is you're into a lot of different things, and you have knowledge of a lot of different things. A nerd is someone who has deep knowledge of a specific topic. So Guinness would be, to me, like a nerd drink. Like that's if you're a nerd, like you're into Guinness because there's a story behind it. There is everything about it. There's not you don't just randomly just order a Guinness. I feel like you need to know everything about a Guinness to call it a
Yes, and also you would be patient for the perfect pour because a Guinness takes a bit to pour. It's not like a lager where you just pour it immediately and it's ready to drink. A Guinness has to sit there. First, the bartender has to pour it gradually to let it set. And then once they serve it to you, you have to sip it slowly in order to get the hops and the flavors and the wheat and the barley all together. So I feel like that is absolutely a nerd drink over a geek, which would be maybe a geek might be an IPA, but I would say for the most part, geeks can be loggers.
Yeah, I would go geeks or loggers for sure. So how
Yeah,
did you get this show onto Tubi? Because the theme tonight is how to pitch yourself in Hollywood.
correct.
And to get on Tubi is no small. I mean, you're like, I don't know. I don't know how to get into Hollywood. And I'm like, but you're there.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're there. Tubi's a real deal. All my family was very excited that I was on Tubi.
Aw, did they watch your episode?
They couldn't find it. They don't know how to use apps, but like,
I gave you a hyperlink directly to your episode.
yeah, this is my family we're talking about here.
Okay, fine. So you'll just have to play it on Turkey Day.
I will.
Did you watch your episode?
I did watch it.
Excellent.
I didn't love the funny part is I didn't love what I was telling you in terms of my backstory of getting into comics because I forgot to mention that, or I didn't differentiate the fact that Crossfire was what flopped and Sire did not flop. Sire was my success story, but I didn't quite articulate it very well in that episode. So the entire time I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, I just told these people like I am a failure. No. The very first thing I did was a failure, and it became the thing that was successful. So that's a self-critique of my own answer. And usually I'm pretty darn good at those things. And I don't know, maybe it was the beer.
I think you're the only person that thought that. Everyone else thought you were very entertaining.
Oh, good.
And very educational. Yeah, I would say there's no right or wrong answer or direct path to getting into Hollywood. I think the easiest answer I can give people is nurture relationships, foster and nurture relationships. I got onto Tubi because the person that actually what became my distributor for Tubi was somebody that I knew ahead of time, and I had fostered a relationship with that person. And by the time I presented a product to be presented to Tubi, there was a trust factor there of, okay, I know this person can deliver a good product. And I know this person would not be asking me these things unless they trusted me and I trusted them. It's all about trust and fostering relationships. Or how my grandfather would say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I would go a step further and say, it's not what you know, it's who you know and how you foster that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's also about good lighting. See,
it's also about good lighting. Yes.
Just turn
and good audio,
which is very important. Yeah. See, that's, I think, the big thing, right? I think from a comic book perspective, right? So people come to comic book school because they want to get into the comic book business. But I think part of the reason we get into this business is to reach a wide audience, right? Comic books kind of have not as wide an audience as movies, as TV shows, as things like that. And so the natural evolution, I mean, I don't know if I would find more than a handful of folks if I interviewed 100 aspiring comic book creators that wouldn't say they would want their stuff turned into a movie, right? There might be one or two that kind of is like, no, I'm all about comic. Like Alan Moore was very famous in saying he never wanted any of his very famous works turned into movies and TV shows. He's like, no, I made comics to make comics. If I want to make a TV show, I'll make a TV show. But that's, I think it's very rare. I would literally say, yes, everyone wants that. I want that. I want my creations, which you can see back here. That's usually a good time for a little segue here, which is the Sire. Ooh,
fancy.
Stores next week. I would love it if the Sire was picked up for a movie or a TV show or whatever the case is. But I think from the creative standpoint, I think you can't expect that to happen. I think you've got to go in just creating something that will attract an audience organically, because I think that is what today's Hollywood is looking for, right? Is looking for a following. It's looking for somebody. I think one of the reasons they work with you on Tubi as well as just the fact that you have a social media following, you have, things like that. So talk to us about that. I mean, is that, how does somebody get a following like that? How does somebody, start that?
Well, I think it just still goes back down to fostering relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But from a digital scale. I mean, my following is not as large as influencers' followings are, but I think the following that I have stems from, again, networking, going to Comic-Cons. I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's really the only universal truth I know besides know your craft and know what you're doing and know how to be a good storyteller. It's called show business for a reason, whether it's in comic books or in television shows and film. There's the show aspect and the business aspect. And part of the business aspect is fostering relationships and playing the long game of those relationships. I think the
Mm-hmm.
most common mistake people make when they meet somebody that might be a collaborative partner or somebody that you would work with or somebody that you would court to be a part of your project is people pitch immediately. And I've seen too many people meet somebody, whether it be an actor, a writer, a producer.
Right.
They meet them immediately and they think this is their only chance to get in
Right.
front of them, and they pitch immediately. And I'm not going to say that doesn't work, because I'm sure there's some story out there where it does work, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the time it doesn't, because again, it's a trust factor, and
Yeah.
trust takes time to build. So most of the people, like I'll talk about the nacelle company that I work with. I'm on Vice TV with them,
For
and
those, look at you. You're a TV star. Look at you.
I mean,
For
yeah.
anybody who doesn't know, Nacelle Company produces the toys that made us. It's Brian Volkweiss. And they're involved. I mean, Nacelle also has produced, I think, like every comedy special on Netflix that you love. So
Yes, they have a company called Comedy Dynamics. They also have on Disney Plus a show called Behind the Attraction. A new season just
mhm,
dropped on Disney Plus, which is really cool.
mhm.
I just watched the food episode, made me hungry. But they have a show on Vice TV called Icons on Earth as well, and I'm one of like the talking heads of
Yeah.
their Marvel series, Star Wars series, and other series that I can't announce yet, but I shot and I'm very excited about. Um, so, with that kind of circumstance, I was working press for Den of Geek at San Diego Comic Con 4 years ago, guys. 4 years ago. And I
Mhm.
interviewed Brian Volkweiss. And I immediately just said that was a lot of fun. I love the toys that made us. This was great. And I just started following him on Instagram, and I started just engaging slowly with him. And then it turned into, I think he was in town for New York Comic Con. And I was like, no way, I'm here working press too. This is great. And we went out, to just get to know each other. Didn't pitch him on anything. I just wanted to get to know him as a person. And yeah, it took 4 years, but well, actually, technically, I guess 3, because I think I started working, doing things for them. No, it was, so if I met them in 2017, sorry guys, I'm doing math because COVID, just I forgot COVID existed for a while. I think in 2021 he asked me. So yeah, 3 years later, he asked me to do his podcast called A Toy Store Near You, which was on Amazon. It was the Amazon podcast. But it took 3 years for the ask to happen. And that seems like a long time, but in hindsight, it's not. But it's
Mhm.
about, but the trust factor was there. So from an educational standpoint, it's like don't be in a hurry to pitch yourself. Be more of a, just treat people like humans. I don't know. Michael, I feel like I'm rambling.
You're not. You're actually giving good information, and I got to tell you, the way I look at it in the comic book world is editors. I always felt like I didn't want to be a nuisance to editors. It's a little different, I think, in terms of that, though, because I think in order to pitch you have to, you can't be afraid to pitch yourself either. But
Sure.
I agree with you. It's a time. There's a time and a place for it. It's all about creating a relationship, creating some sort of, area where you could say, hey, by the way, and this is how I got into Image, though, is I got into Image Comics through a guy I had done a freelance job for. I had done a freelance coloring job. And for this guy, Dwight McPherson, he was a writer. He liked my work. He remembered my colors. When he went to Image, he got in, and I was able to produce on time, on deadline, good coloring, and I got to know my editor, Chris Simon, and I got to know Jim Valentino. And then I was able to, hey, by the way, I have, I'm not just a colorist, I'm a writer too. I have projects. Would it be okay if I pitch you? And that was, again, it wasn't the first email conversation that we had together. It was, okay, I showed them that I could create stuff. I then nurtured the relationship. And then over, for me, it was a course of maybe a month or so where I was like, all right, I feel comfortable being like, hey, is it okay if I pitch you guys? And they said, of course, we'd love to see it. And I know a bunch of other editors as well, too. And again, I still have to get over myself and get over the fear of, it's not even a fear of rejection. It's a fear that I have of, I don't want to annoy somebody. But as long as you have that relationship built, like you said, I think it's something you can definitely, you can definitely nurture and take advantage of. I mean, look, at the end of the day, be selfish, right? We're here to try to be successful, and the person that finds the next person that's successful will also be successful. The person that found Bevin is going to be just as successful for having found you. See,
what did Michael Keaton say when he won? I think it might have been the Golden Globe, where he came up and he said, "You don't get anywhere without somebody throwing you a solid, and therefore, I would like to thank everyone that threw me a solid." And that's great advice. I mean, people like to help other people, especially if they like the person, and it's not always going to work out. But I mean, if you kind of care about the industry, and you care, if you really admire people's work, and you kind of value their time, and again, nurture that relationship to where they feel like they can value you and trust you, I think you're going to be in good hands. Everything else is happenstance in terms of when it happens, how it happens. It's always different.
Yeah. What I would also say, and this is something that you are very good at doing, which is...
Nope, and he left me. It's a cliffhanger, guys. It's a cliffhanger. Oh, that's great. He's going to come back and be in mid-sentence as a joke, I bet. Yeah, that would be... There he is.
Wow. This has just been one of those... And everything on my screen, by the way, to go behind the curtain, just went French again. Everything is
French?
Firefox is crazy. What I was saying, you do very well is you host podcasts. And I started my original podcast, Secrets of the Sire, which is going to now be a Substack in the next couple months. It's going to be very exciting. And I'll launch it as a Substack. And we're doing a podcast together. But one of the things one of the biggest reasons I did start the podcast was to brand myself to publishers, was to connect with publishers that I had lost touch with by providing a service to them, right? Like, I'm providing promotion for you. I'm providing a platform for you to get up there and talk about yourself and talk about what you do. By doing so, that strengthens the relationship, which is what we kind of talked about.
Yep.
And also, again, to the world at large, it was like, wow, you have a show. Oh, wow. And I always, tonight, notwithstanding where I dropped out, I always try to do a professional job. And so people can see that, oh boy, you are a professional creator doing a professional show. I remember people that I used to work with at Wizard Magazine were like, I never saw this side of you. I didn't realize you could do this kind of thing. And so I guess my rambling lesson is to, put yourself out there in a way that you can sculpt your own brand, so that the next time someone sees you and they go, what do? You have things that are out there and visible that you can actually, kind of pitch yourself again, as Aaron so delightfully
The new perfume of Cavlin Hobbs. Never mind. Oh, that's so funny.
Stated. But you can enhance your pitch. When you got into podcasting, is this something that you thought of?
I definitely thought about it when I went into press. I viewed it as an opportunity to network with people without the pressure of them having to interact with somebody that might pitch them. Because if you go up to somebody, let's just say, let me throw Dan Fogler, for instance. If you go up to Dan Fogler and you introduce yourself as a producer actor, as I would have done if I was not in press, there comes this like sort of tension of, are they going to pitch me? Are they going to pitch me? Or they're going to ask something of me? When you are press, you're in service, like you said, you're in service of them. You're interacting with them as, actually, I'm here to advertise you and what you do and what you would like to talk about, what you would like to pitch, because you're here. Most people at Comic-Cons are there to advertise either a show that they're in, a comic book that they have written, artwork that they have drawn. And most of the people in the season of Beverages with Bevins are vendors, writers, artists, cosplayers, and people that work in production. There are a few actors that are in the first season as well, but for the most part, it's people that are looking at Tubi as another platform for them to be like, oh, this is cool. I can talk about what I do, like your
Right.
friend Victor, who writes comic books for and educates people, children specifically, through comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to come on. Normally, he's a moderator, but in this happenstance in the show, he gets
Right.
to advertise what he does as opposed to him questioning other people what they do.
Yeah. I think Victor's a great case study
Yeah.
as well, too, of someone who really is going outside the box to be successful. I mean, being a full-time comic book panel moderator, it's something I don't think a lot of people would even think about. And not everyone has the personality he does, thankfully, obviously to do
Fabulous
it.
personality.
But it's not what he does that's so that I think is so amazing. It's what he's doing to get himself noticed and get
Mhm.
get himself on the map. I mean, he has a production company, he has an agent, he has people that are actually trying to actively take his creations now and turn them into movies and TV shows and things like that. And that's because of his exposure, the exposure he got himself. So now let me ask you a question, because this is it might be easy for you and I to do things like this. We have the personalities to do podcasting, and we have the personalities, to do moderation, panel moderation, all that fun stuff. What about the comic book creator out there who doesn't have this kind of personality? Is there anything you could recommend in terms of, a networking tip, or a tip that you could give, or, someone who might not be as extroverted, in order to maybe get that next step and build that relationship?
I mean, ooh,
The tough one. I got you here. Yeah.
no, it's not a tough one. It's still kind of the same advice, but it's
Mhm.
a different tactic, which is find your tribe. So if you still
Mm.
need to foster relationships,
See,
but
this is why you're good at what you do. Look at you.
you should be specific then about who you're picking. If you know you don't like to do the pitching, then find a collaborative business partner that does.
Mm.
I am not great at partnership acquisitions, and I found a co-producer that's on my show that thrives on it. Loves to do it. Loves to negotiate, barter. I don't like doing that. I want everyone. I like to be friends with everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
this person does. Not that this person doesn't like to be friends with everybody. This person's like, I know the business side. I have experience with partnerships. I have the relationships. I'm going to handle this part. So it's still the same thing of fostering relationships. It's just being specific on how and who you're going to court. So if you're introverted and you're very talented and you are a really good writer, but the whole networking, socializing is not really your jam, then find a collaborative partner that does like to do it, that can speak on your behalf. So it's still fostering relationships. It's just being more specific on which relationships to foster first
Mm-hmm.
and then expand out.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great advice. So one thing that kind of came of my podcast, which I thought was kind of funny,
Uh-huh.
because it wasn't necessarily my intention, but it was, again, my original goal was just to reconnect with my network and strengthen my network and strengthen the relationships like we talked about. But it actually did pretty well for itself. The podcast, we came out during when Facebook Live was just starting up. And we were averaging like 20,000 video views a week, which was
That's awesome.
phenomenal on Facebook. Yeah, which is great. Which then snowballed in the fact that I get to meet a whole bunch of people in the industry. Now I am an industry serviceman. So, Bevin, would you like to see a clip from my most recent interview?
I mean, if I say no, are you still going to show it
I'm
to
still
me?
going to run it. Yeah, I'm still going to run
Okay,
it. You
so
got to sit
yes,
there and you have to run
yes,
it.
Michael, I would love to.
So this is a kind of cool thing. This is a clip. I am interviewing Rick Cosnett, who is on TV's The Flash. He played Cobalt Blue. He actually perished in season 2 or 3,
Oh, you're
but
going to
then
spoil
his
it?
character
Okay.
came back in season 9. The show's been over now, so that's it. It's spoilerific. So if you don't know, you don't know, you don't know. So here's a quick clip. I'm asking him what it's like. Well, you'll see. So obviously, folks in my world know you from the world of The Flash. Things that have this kind of fanatic audience, for lack of a better term, the comic book universe, the Comic-Con universe. What was it like, A, first, getting involved with The Flash, but then B, actually being able to be brought back in the last season because, it seemed like your character, had spoiler alert, gone and done a brave thing and gone and departed from the universe. So talk to me
Yes,
about that.
very diplomatic way of putting it. Thank you, Michael. Yes, well, it was a roller coaster, obviously, for all of us in different ways. Mine was particularly steep here and there, and it was so tragic. When my character was killed,
Yeah.
That it was really, really cool to be able to come back in such a big way and sort of bookend the entire series.
Yeah.
And really do justice finally to a character that a lot of people felt was unfinished. So it was so much fun. Life very much mirrored the story a lot of the time. It was just so bizarre for me to be back there
Sure.
with everyone, and it was like stepping into another timeline, really.
Right.
They were still there the whole time under the one highway in their trailers where we'd been since 2013.
Right.
And I had all those crazy memories there, but I had stepped out of that, for so long, and my friendships, just lasting, wonderful friendships with people, and just like, just so much. I mean, in Canada, being in Canada, like so random.
You can add Canadian to your accent, right?
Yeah, pretending to be from the US, but in Canada.
There you go.
In a comic book world. It was all kind of amazing, and one of the best experiences of my life, like hands down. One of my most favorite stories, one of my favorite characters, and just really one of the biggest things that has happened to me. So I'm just like super grateful.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Solid clip right there.
That was a solid clip. Round of applause for your clip.
If you want to watch the full pod, go follow me on Instagram, Sire Studios. Go follow me on Twitter, Sire_Studios. And wait for my big announcement for my Substack, because then I'm going to have it up on the Substack. But that's kind of the benefit too. You put yourself out there, and now all of a sudden I have publicists that are like, "Hey, go interview a guy from TV's The Flash."
Ooh.
Pretty exciting. We've got about 5 minutes or so left of the show. Supposed to keep it around half an hour.
Okay, great.
Real quick, we talk pop culture, you and I. What is your take on the superhero fatigue that has finally happened? People have been saying this for years. Marvel's going to blah, blah, blah. It's going to eventually catch up to. And it seems that it has finally caught up. What is your take on everything that's going on right now?
I don't believe people have superhero fatigue. I believe they have bad writing fatigue.
I like it.
Or not. Let's not call it bad writing. Let's call it basic, bland writing, because it's very safe, and if
formulaic, if you will.
Formulaic, right? Yes, they have formulaic writing fatigue. If the character was compelling, if the character was interesting, we would not be having fatigue, because people would be invested in the character and what they are working towards, what demons they're trying to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
We would be fine. Would we still be saturated? Sure. Would the fatigue really be in place? I don't believe so. That's my hot take. I think a good story is a good story, and a good character is a good character. And any story that is character driven is going to have a higher success rate of getting people interested and invested in watching, versus stories that are plot driven.
I love it. See, you're on point. This is why you do what you do.
Do you agree? Yes or no?
I agree. I also think there is an oversaturation, and it's an oversaturation of, B-level characters at the end of the day. If and everyone kind of says, well, Guardians of the Galaxy were B-level characters, and look how great that is. Two things working for them. One, they had James Gunn working for them, and two, yes, they were B-level characters, but they were in a sea of A-list characters everywhere. So they actually had an advantage being a B-level character, because they actually stood out. Like, ooh, this is Marvel. This is the Marvel a lot of people don't know, versus, the Captain America and things like that. Now it's all characters like that. The Eternals were like that. Captain Marvel, her comic books are not big sellers. I mean, they're just not. you know, you had a Black Panther movie in there that did very well, but otherwise, you know, and you had Spider-Man. But again, it's only the heavy hitters right now for Marvel that are actually, you know, paying dividends for them. And Disney Plus, you know, kind of killed the cash cow there, killed the golden egg there by just endless content.
Sure. And again, sure, I think people would still be feeling the saturated level, but WandaVision was very popular. I thought it was really well. Yes, it was the first one. I thought for the most part it was very well done because again, it's character driven about Wanda's grief. So
Yeah.
that was an interesting little mystery box. People really like Loki, but then again, Loki was already an established character. But I think all these other shows just fell victim to the plot is more important than the character and what the character is striving for, what they want, who they are. I think it's possible to make audience members like B-level characters. I just think you need your point of view character to be relatable. You need something that people are going to latch on to that can see themselves in, not just, you know, what gender they are, but also who they are personality wise and say, that's me. A lot of people relate to Rocket, and that's a raccoon.
It's very true.
It's like,
Don't call him a raccoon, though.
No, you can now. He accepts it now. He accepts the title now. He embraces the raccoon title.
I love it. Bevin, where can folks find you online?
Well, they can find me at Bevin Bat Spice on Instagram, because if I were a Spice Girl, I would be Bat Spice because Batman's my favorite. So that's where they can find me on Instagram. That's also, you could technically use that handle on Twitter and TikTok and Facebook, but I don't really use Twitter or TikTok right now because TikTok's a little cray-cray, and so is Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it nowadays. So Instagram, where you can learn more about Beverages with Bevin on Tubi.
You mean Beverages with Bevin starring this guy?
Starring that guy.
Now, but in all seriousness, it's an awesome show. I know my episode features Chris Claremont, who's one of my all-time favorite writers. So that was a pleasure and a surprise. But yeah,
you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't realize. Yeah.
Well, look at you. I'm full of gifts. It's just something for you to be thankful for on the week of Thanksgiving.
Oh, Erin would like to see the Bat Book.
Oh, wait.
While she goes and gets the Bat Book, I'm going to do some plugging. Sire Lost in Time, #1.
Oh, man.
Coming out. Hey, hang on one second. Lost in Time, #1 in stores next Wednesday. It's a 5-issue series. It's the first new Sire book that's been in stores in 15 years. It might be not new to some folks who've been following us on Kickstarter, but for the most part, if you have, then if you haven't been, then this is brand new to you. All right, Bat Book time. Woo!
Batman. So, guys, for those that don't know, Kevin Conroy is my absolute favorite Batman. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. I got to interview him several times. It was such an honor to meet him in person several times. And it has beautiful artwork from the animated series. Of those that have not watched it yet, it's so good. It's so good. I'm so excited. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that, Robin. Look at that. Whoop, I'm dropping things. But yeah. It's so beautiful.
Follow Bevin on Instagram. Follow me at Sire Studios. This has been my second week takeover of Comic Book School, and I think it went pretty well. What do you think?
Thanks, Aaron. This is so wonderful. I'm sorry. Thanks, Michael Dolce, for having me. I hope I was helpful, guys. Comic books are really important. It's not just about superheroes. It is, Walking Dead. People forget. Is a very famous comic book, and there's no superheroes there, but there are zombies.
I love it.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
All right.
Until next time.
And you'll see me when you see me, because I think Buddy comes back from Morocco next week, so he'll be doing Comic Book School live. We'll see you guys when we see you.